Good evening, everyone, and happy Wednesday. It is hump day. We are halfway through this week already and that much closer to the holidays. Can you believe it? Come on in, spend some moments with me tonight. I am Dr. Monique. You guys know who I am. Dr. Monique, board certified family physician, founder of Physician in the Kitchen, and through my home meal delivery service, Amazon best-selling book, Meal Masters, Your Simple Guide to Modern Day Meal Planning, and my online cooking classes. I help busy households enjoy healthy eating without impacting their hectic schedules. So it's Wednesday. It is kind of a little chilly here in Charlotte. Not too bad, actually. It was rainy. I think we're getting the effects of whatever hurricane is um, out there now. I can't keep up which one it is. But we actually didn't have to go out today, so that was nice. My son had a remote day from school today. So remote home day, remote school day today. So that was nice. But let me start by saying happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans out there. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for making that ultimate sacrifice to protect and serve our country, and just want to make sure you know that you are appreciated for all that you do and that you have done and all that you do. Um, so we're going to spend a few moments tonight. So I invite you to share with your friends, tag your friends, invite them in with us. If you're watching this on the replay, please post hashtag replay. I'd love to see your comments, questions. We're going to give it a few more minutes for folks to join us. But I do want to spend a few moments talking to you about Thanksgiving, right? Because 2 weeks from tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Can you believe that? We are in the home stretch, and it's going to look a lot different this year, like everything so far because of COVID. So we're going to spend some time talking about how to celebrate Thanksgiving during a pandemic. And I hope that I'm able to give you some tips and some resources to try to help you maintain some sense of normalcy, some sense of tradition during this crazy mixed up time, right? Because there is no tradition in the middle of a pandemic, but we as humans, our nature is we want to remember things that give us comfort. Family traditions, it could be generations long, or it could be something you started with your own family, but that works to kind of unite us and to soothe us. And so how do you negotiate that when everybody has to stay 6 feet apart or quarantine or socially distant? So we're going to talk about that tonight. So, and as I think back to this time last year, so you guys know I love to cook. I'm in the kitchen gadget junkie. So this time of year, right, for home cooks, for people who love kitchen stuff, this is like the Super Bowl, right, for us. Um, you get to, I mean, this is you go big or you go home, right? You get to try out new dishes, or you get to dust off old favorites, maybe tweak them a little bit. But it's really the time that you look forward to making a big spread and inviting people. It's typically how we do it. I have a funny story. So my mom my mother is a force to be reckoned with. You've seen her on a couple of my live streams. And so one year, so we lived in Memphis for a few years, and then we moved back to Charlotte. So one year, and I forget why we did this, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but one Thanksgiving we decided to drive back to Memphis from Charlotte and pretty much commandeer my friend Benita's house. Benita, if you're watching this, if you remember that crazy Thanksgiving where we came and pretty much took over your house, drop it in the comments. So we packed up our whatever we had taken and made to take with us, drove I don't know, 10, 11 hours to Memphis, and basically set up shop in Benita's kitchen. She was so gracious to let us do that. And it was funny because the next day, Friday, they had to fly to New York to be on the Today Show. Their daughter, Lauren, is a pediatric cancer survivor. And so they are ambassadors for St. Jude's. And so the next day they had to fly out early in the morning so that they could be on the plaza with, I think it might have been Matt Lauer at the time. Um, to be, to be on the, well, he probably didn't work the day after Thanksgiving. So whoever, I'm not sure. But so that left, they left us in their house, which, and it was hilarious because they used to be our neighbors. We used to live about 3 or 4 houses down the street from them. So that's what we did one Thanksgiving, and it was their family, our family, a couple of people from the neighborhood, just sitting around their big dining room tables. So, that's typically what Thanksgiving is, right? Gathering of friends and family, potluck dishes, again, dusting off your grandmother's recipe, your mother's recipe. So how do we do that now? How do we do that? And this time last year, oh, if you've joined, please type your name, because in StreamYard, it doesn't show me your name until you click the link that lets Facebook show your name. So if you've joined and I can't see your name, please let me know you're here. So this time last year, we were getting ready to host at my parents' house, and we were having my boyfriend, my friend's friend, and her boyfriend and her son, in addition to, of course, my parents and my son. And so then we had, and my cousin Eric had joined us. He came all the way up from Alabama. He was a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. And so he and my girlfriend V and her boyfriend hit it off like old friends because they all were Dallas Cowboy fans. And if I remember correctly, I think the Cowboys lost that game. I'm from New York, so I'm obligated. I think it's on my birth certificate or something that I have to cheer for the Giants or pull for the Giants, no matter how hard and painful that is. So actually, I believe it was, I think they were playing the Cowboys and the Giants. And so the Cowboys lost. And so it was, my dad and I, we got a big kick out of that. But Eric you didn't see him without seeing some piece of Dallas Cowboy paraphernalia. He, whether it was a baseball cap, a blanket, stuff for his car, you name it. So, unfortunately, that was to be our last Thanksgiving with him because he passed away due to COVID in June. Only 54 years old, but he did have obesity as a risk factor. He was on dialysis. He was diabetic. So, and of course, African American. So, my family has been directly impacted by COVID, and I'm sure anyone watching this either directly in their family has been affected or indirectly by someone, a family, a friend or a coworker or someone. Not to mention, of course, the economic toll, but just the loss of a loved one, the loss of that person who won't be at the table this year. So as I was thinking about this topic, I wanted to just kind of start with that, just to say, like, when you think about Thanksgiving dinner this year, what do you visualize? What do you visualize? We have to be careful. We have to protect everyone, but particularly our older family members, right? Our grandparents, our great grandparents, anybody with pre-existing health conditions, lung or heart conditions, diabetes, immune system challenges, anything that makes them at higher risk, you definitely want to be careful. And so, we have to start thinking about that, now, because if you are thinking about going to spend time with a family member, you pretty much want to quarantine like now. Because you want about a 10 to 14-day quarantine. And so if you're working from home, that may be easier to do, but quarantining, if you think about it, doesn't mean that you're going to the grocery store. I mean, quarantining means you are at the house. So you would have to have food delivered, you order it online, have food delivered. But I think some people think, oh, I'm just going to the grocery store and otherwise I'm staying at home. But that's not really quarantining. You're still having contact with the outside world. So that's not 100% quarantine. Of course, there's more widespread testing now than there was initially. So And we'll get into that a little bit more, but, we, just a couple of weeks ago, my son went to take a test. He did it at the, CVS. They have a drive through, you make an appointment, you drive through, they give you the swab. So he did it himself. He had to run it around both nostrils. Um, I have concerns about how accurate that is, but, I guess, because you want to be careful about false negatives, meaning the test is saying you don't have it, but you really do. But he's been asymptomatic. He went to get tested because there was a report of someone in his school. So, and his test was negative. If you're thinking about traveling, you want to quarantine, you want to consider getting one of those rapid tests done, whether you can you get the results right then or within the next day or so. But again, we'll talk a little bit more about ways to stay safe. But when you just think about, or when I think about what Thanksgiving will look like this year, it's of course going to be much more intimate, and much more intimate. Just, my family who's here, my parents, my son, because um and even that I'm really giving pause to, because my parents are in their 70s and they're fairly healthy, thank God, but they do have that risk factor of just of two, their age, and they are African American. And so I'm really starting to give thought to, well, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to do this? So, just physical distance for one. They have a big enough table where we can kind of all be in separate corners or separate areas of the table. I would even suggest, that maybe etiquette be suspended during this time, right? Nothing is this the new normal, whatever that means, right? So yes, etiquette, we say, eat at the table, don't watch television, all that kind of type of thing. But, I would even suggest maybe eating in different parts of the house. Maybe somebody's at the dining room table and someone is in the living room on the couch, or in the family room on the couch, just to really maximize that physical distance as much as you can. So, because at the end of the day, if you're all under the same roof, at least you're together that way. But if you have a larger family, probably not recommended to have groups of more than 10. Um, but those are things to kind of think about. If the weather is nice, even, it's actually been pretty balmy here in North Carolina here lately. Um, if the weather is nice enough where you are, think about taking it outdoors in your backyard. So things that will just, again, increase the distance and between you, and decrease the risk of spread. So that's local. That's if you're celebrating locally. If you're fortunate enough to have your family, near you. But what about if you're not? I speak about my grandmother often, and she's no longer with us. But when I was growing up, I'm from New York. She was in Alabama, so that would have been obviously, long distance. I didn't get to spend all the holidays with her. So what if you are in one place and your loved one is, far away? What do you do? Well, if you're trying to be together and you have to travel to that place, I'd recommend considering driving versus flying. Some of the airlines now are using that middle seat. They're not distancing on the airplane, and I don't know all the statistics behind that, but it just makes me nervous. It just makes me nervous to be sitting that close to someone, because we all know how they're just packing people on these airplanes. And at least having that middle seat open gives some sense of distance. But if they're not even doing that and I can't remember which airline it is, so I would recommend not using that airline. But if you can, to drive for obvious reasons. And then on your route, as you're driving, use, as much touch free as you can. If you stop for gas, using your credit card, not using cash, trying to use your credit card, and eliminate contact as much as you can, whether it's for food or for gas. And then of course, wearing your mask when you're out of the car, washing your hands, or using hand sanitizer, all of those things to decrease your risk of exposure. Again, not touching your face, things like that. So everything now is virtual, right? And if you're just joining us, I'm Dr. Monique, board certified family physician, founder of Physician in the Kitchen. And we're on here talking tonight about how to celebrate Thanksgiving during the pandemic. So be sure to tag a friend, share this with your friends. And also, if you're watching this on the replay, please type hashtag replay in the comments. So, we're doing everything online now, right? We're working from home. We're going to school, from home. We're attending weddings and funerals via Zoom and online. You name it. Everything's been taken online. So it stands to reason that, there'll be some Thanksgiving celebrations that'll be done virtually as well. And so again, how do you do that, right? Because you can't smell that turkey cooking. You can't, on Zoom. You can't sneak in and get some samples before the meal is served on Zoom. And of course, you don't have the contact, the closeness physically that you do on Zoom. So how do you though? How do you perpetuate traditions, continue traditions? How do you make it feel like you all are together while being apart? Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Just some ideas that I've come up with, and I'd love to hear your suggestions as well. So again, we're just talking about how to celebrate Thanksgiving during the pandemic. So for those that are not traveling, right, and staying or sheltering in place and are doing this virtually, you want to pretty much start planning now, because there's a few things that you can do that can kind of unify, your family members. So go ahead and send out those Zoom invitations. Go ahead and let the family know, hey, we're gonna have this Thanksgiving dinner virtually. And then for the elders, right, for the more seasoned family members, think about ways where you can get food to them. Okay, whether it's food that you've made yourself, go ahead and make it now, freeze it, and have it shipped to them, so that on Thanksgiving they have your award-winning macaroni and cheese, or your that cornbread dressing that they is to die for. Of course, you want to choose foods that are going to freeze and ship in good shape. But if you do the next day or 2 day, it should be fine. But yeah, go ahead and start thinking that. And if this time last year, it's funny, I was doing live streams about going ahead and cooking in advance. I had like a countdown, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, 1 week out, foods that you can make and freeze, so that Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving Eve, you are not stressed and pulling out your hair. Well, that actually kind of applies now too. So I encourage you to go back and watch those. But, if you go ahead and start, batch cooking, and you can do small batches, it doesn't have to be huge. But if you just do like one dish a day, by the time Thanksgiving gets here, you've got it made. And if you're doing that, go ahead and make an extra portion so that you can go ahead and start building that meal for the loved one who is at a distance, and have it shipped to them. So, similarly, you can also, if your family is crazy about, Bojangles fried turkey or whatever is nationally available so that people can get it, have it set up so that everyone can have the same thing delivered to their home, so that you kind of feel like you all are eating the same thing. So you could work with whatever chain, because though everyone now is doing the delivery pretty much, that from that you can get ordered, and so that would be maybe a cool thing to do, is have something nationally that everyone can have. If you're not the cook and you don't want to do that, but you still want to contribute, that might be a way to unify people as well. You can also do like a recipe potluck. Again, everything's been turned upside down. So maybe you want to start a new tradition. And so maybe you guys have a planning call with your family and say, okay, how are we going to do this year? How are we going to do Thanksgiving this year? And so maybe just have a recipe potluck, and you say, okay, who's got the macaroni and cheese? Who's got the dressing? Who's got the green bean casserole? And so if you, and then you just have to make that dish. So you would make the dish for yourself. And so, you kind of share it virtually, like, this is what I did. And so maybe, show a younger family member how to make something or get some advice on an older family member on how to make it. Um, but again, just a kind of a way to try to have some type of tradition and kind of some kind of continuity. Um, the other thing I think would be really good to do at this time, especially now, is for Zoom, you can record, right? This would be a great time to get those recipes and any other family lore, family tradition, family lore, um, family history. But get that recorded. Get that great aunt, get your grandmother, get your uncle, grandfather, whoever can give you some of that history, some of your family's history, whether it be a recipe, whether it be a story. Go ahead and record that. This is such a good time to do that. If you can't get to them, um, they can do it on their phone, they can send it as a audio file. But Zoom, if you send them a Zoom link and just say, hey, let's just jump on and tell me about my grandmother's recipe for this, or tell me about how you used to what was your favorite meal as a child at Thanksgiving, and see what they say, because you'd be amazed. You really would be. um, a bittersweet story about my cousin's passing, my cousin Eric. My grandmother died when I'm sorry, in 1996. And so I had not really, I had just graduated medical school. I was starting my residency. So I wasn't in the kitchen very much. So, and I didn't appreciate a cast iron skillet at the time. Over the years, as I started accumulating my own things, um, I just had this I had this sense of loss that I didn't get my grandmother's stuff when she passed, her kitchen stuff. And so, sure enough, if you look at the cover of my book, Meal Masters: Your Simple Guide to Modern Day Meal Planning, I'm posed with a skillet, with a cast iron skillet. And because I love it, I love a cast iron skillet. I have them in all sizes. I have the big one. I have the two small ones. I have, or medium sized ones. I have like the little miniature ones that you can make your little personalized dessert in. I love cast iron because to me it's like the symbol of homemade, of authenticity, and just love and concern for family. I don't know why I put all that in a pot, but I do. So, but it also reminds me of my grandmother, and I think that's a large part of that. So fast forward to June when my cousin died. My other cousin was cleaning out his apartment. And so my mother asked me, she said, do you want mama's skillet? I'm like, what do you mean, do I want it? Like, what are you talking about? So my cousin Eric had it. He had my grandmother's cast iron skillet. And so my cousin Titus sent it to me. And don't you know, actually, you can see, I have it. If you can see, I don't know what, it's hard for me to do this because it's backwards. But this skillet that you see in my, guys, I can't do this. I'm trying to, there we go. Sort of, kind of. But the skillet that's in the picture behind me that I'm trying to show you, that's not my grandmother's skillet. That's my skillet. But the skillet that Eric had looks very similar to that. So when I got that, I got a little emotional about it because it was just, I got to get her skillet. It was similar to what's on my book. And the first thing I made in it was some cast iron skillet cornbread. It was good too. But so saying all that to say that traditions, this time of year, tradition plays a big role in a lot of our lives. And this year now, since that looks so different, um, just on here trying to share some ways and some tips on how you can try to normalize what's not normal right now. So I'm going to get out of here. I hope this has been helpful. Again, thank you to all of our veterans for your service. I hope you have enjoyed your day. Be sure to check me out next week. I'm starting my 5-day challenge next week. You can sign up at nourish2020.com. That's NOURISH 2020.com. And it's going to be fun. We're going to talk about some ways to prevent gaining this weight, getting some of the weight off that you may have gained during this lockdown, and how to prevent packing on even more pounds during the holidays. So be sure to sign up there. I'm giving away a free ebook with tips on weight loss. So be sure to check that out. So I'm going to get out of here, but I've enjoyed being on here with you. I am Dr. Monique, your board certified family physician and founder of Physician in the Kitchen. And through my home meal delivery service, best-selling Amazon book, Meal Masters, your simple guide to modern day meal planning, and my online cooking classes, I help busy households enjoy healthy eating without impacting their hectic schedules. Guys, have an awesome, awesome rest of the week. And I hope to see you next week in my challenge. And it's going to be right here every night, 7 p.m. in the Meal Masters group. So be sure, if you're not a member, send a request to join my group. It's Dr. Monique's Meal Masters. So it's facebook.com/groups/Meal Masters. You just have to answer 3 little simple questions to be invited to join. So look forward to seeing you guys next week. Take care.